Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a book review, actually, of Jon Burlingame, Music for Prime Time. I've really been enjoying books lately about great film composers and music for media. And Jon Burlingame has to be the world's greatest expert on music for television. This book covers, well, everything. It's just amazing how much is in here. You've got chapters on crime shows, on hospital shows, on science fiction shows, on dramas, cop and detective shows, westerns, comedies, action adventure, documentaries, news and information program, cartoons in prime time. Oh, baby. You've got the Flintstones, which, as you know, sounds an awful lot like the finale of Bruckner's Fifth, right? Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're the modern Stone Age family. Well, yum, bum, 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 bum. Well, you know what I mean. Yes. And we've got, made-for-TV movies and miniseries. British shows aired in America. Music for cable and streaming services. This is mostly about United States television. And it's really a remarkable story. The average TV theme, some of them are different, of course, but, the average TV theme works as in a sort of AABA format, and it takes anywhere from 45 seconds to a minute. You hear a tune, and then you hear a repeat of the tune, and then there's a central section of some kind of, different melodic idea, and then a repeat of the opening. And that's it. That's the TV tune. It's all melodically based. And Burlingame really gets into how many composers lavish time and serious time and attention on this extremely restrictive form, by and large. Certain TV shows, had original scores, sometimes for each episode. Some of them used stock music from music libraries. And it really was very interesting. I got into this because, I used to watch with my partner, The Lone Ranger. We watch it still sometimes. It was just the old 1950s or 40s, The Lone Ranger, which had tons of classical music in it. It was so much fun to watch. They're doing Freischütz and the Flying Dutchman, and they're all galloping around on horses, and it makes no sense whatsoever. It's so much fun. And Roadrunner cartoons, especially the ones that use the Dance of the Comedians from The Bartered Bride. But eventually, after using all of these music libraries full of little classical bits, they started turning to actual composers the way Hollywood started using actual composers. It came later for television. It was really in the late 50s and 60s when they finally started doing hiring composers to write for television. And it was a very restrictive medium. And a lot of composers wrote libraries of music. They would label them suspense, chase, death, things like that. Bernard Herrmann wrote for television. Elmer Bernstein wrote for television. All the major Hollywood composers, Jerry Goldsmith, they all wrote for TV at one point or another, or at least most of them did. How often or how much depended on the composer, depended on the television show, depended on the budget. The ensembles for television shows tended to be somewhat smaller. There were jazz composers who wrote for television, some really interesting stuff, and it's all detailed here. The amount of coverage, it's every single television show, probably, that you could ever remember, from My Mother the Car to Mr. Ed to the Norman Lear sitcoms to Star Trek. Really, really fantastic level of detail that he's put into this book. And that is its virtue and its vice. Let's put it that way. Because if you're curious about a television show that you might have heard, you could look it up at the index, and you can be sure that he talks about it somewhere, at least cursorily, sometimes in much greater depth. But it does tend to get list-like. It becomes a 1955. Here we had this show, these shows, and so wrote for them. In 1956, we have these shows, and so wrote for them. And the lists roll on and on. He can't possibly cover everything, in with the same level of detail. And there are certain things that you may be very curious about that he doesn't spend much time on. But by and large, as an encyclopedic survey of everything to do with American television, from the point at which original music came to be used up until, I don't know, where does it go? He goes up to the X-Files and, really until rather recently. This is an amazing book. It's published by Oxford University Press. Thank God. It has a very, very serious index to the back by title, so you can get everything that you need to get. And it's an extraordinary achievement. So if you're into TV, as I am, and if you're into the way music is used to enhance moving images, and how composers write for different media, this is essential stuff. It really is. It's called Music for Prime Time by Jon Burlingame, A History of American Television Themes and Scoring. And boy, is it special. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.